I'll talk a little bit about something that we find in the beginning of the Torah and something that's important to understand. So the way the first words in Bereshit is, the first words of the Torah are Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim v'haaretz, in the beginning. This is the way it's normally translated. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That's the known translation of the first verse in Genesis, the first verse in Bereshit. But if you look at the Hebrew, it actually doesn't say that, because Bereshit means in the beginning. That's the literal translation. We'll use this as a translation. Bar Elohim, God created. Elohim is one name of God. Bar Elohim, God created. But if you say the words Bereshit together, Bereshit Bar Elohim, in the beginning God created, that already suggests that there was a creation of a beginning before the creation of the beginning. Because who created the beginning? It says in the beginning, which means that there was already a beginning. And in the beginning God created, which suggests that there's already a beginning before the creation. For this reason, the correct way would have been, if you want to say that God created the beginning, the correct phrase would not be Bereshit bara Elohim, but it would be Elohim bara Bereshit. Elohim, God, created the beginning. And for this reason, the sages tell us that in the first time that the Torah was translated into other languages, and the sages were asked to translate the Torah, instead of translating the Torah Bereshit bara Elohim, they wrote it in a way that Elohim bara Bereshit. But that still begs the question, so it was a miraculous event and everyone that translated the same way. Each one was put in a separate room and they were asked to translate and they all translated the same way. But it still begs the question of why the phrase itself is Bereshit bara Elohim, not Elohim bara Bereshit. Why God created the beginning, not in the beginning God created. So what is the word Bereshit? And for this reason, we'll understand this on multiple levels, but for this reason, the simple interpretation which Rashi gives, which is the classic commentator on the Torah, Rashi says that Bereshit is not in the beginning, but for a quote-unquote beginning. Bereshit means for a beginning, bara Elohim, God created. So the Torah is not saying that the world was created in the beginning, but for a beginning. What is a beginning? So Rashi says there are two things in the Torah that's called Reshis, beginning, the Torah and Israel. So Bereshit means for the Torah, for Israel, the world was created. So instead of reading it as Bereshit bara Elohim, in the beginning God created, we're saying that it was for a beginning. So if we understand it this way, and this is the way we're going to use Rashi, and we're going to see the way it's understood Kabbalistically, but if we understand that the Torah is really describing for a beginning, or as the Targum, the original translator of the Torah, says, b'chachmasa, with wisdom. So the world was created for the purpose of revealing wisdom, or with wisdom the world was created. So the Torah is actually not describing the how of creation, but describing the why of creation. And it's a very big difference how we understand the description of the Torah. If we say the Torah is describing the how, then the Torah is describing how the world is created. And what's the process of creation. And what happens on day one, what happens on day two, whatever they represent, if they represent time or they represent days or eras, but it's explaining the how. If we read the how, then there's a problem with the word Bereshit, because if it's a how, then what is the beginning before the creation? But if we say that Bereshit means why, the word Bereshit means for the purpose of the Chachmasa, the purpose of wisdom, the purpose of the Torah, the purpose of Israel, that's why the world is created. So the Torah is not describing the how of creation, but the why of creation. Because the how of creation, like the Ramban and others write, the how of creation, well, Rashi, in another Rashi says like this, that Rashi says, the Torah really should have began not with Bereshit Bar Elokim, with the story of creation, but the Torah should begin with the first narrative, the first mitzvah that the Jews received, the Israelites received when they were in Egypt. So the beginning of the Exodus and then the revealing of the Torah. The sanctification of the new, that should begin the new Torah. That's where the Torah should begin. So all the commentators ask, so why? And so Rashi says that the reason why the Torah describes creation is to tell us that Israel belongs to the people of Israel. So all the commentators ask, so what's the first part of the Torah? The whole Bereshit is not meant to be. We don't really need it. And who would tell us that God created the world? So the Ramban says, if we're trying to explain how God created the world, reading Bereshit is not going to help. It's too deep, and the little bit that the Torah suggests is very encrypted. So it's not going to explain us how anyways. So therefore the deeper understanding is not that it's explaining us how the world was created, but why. And every day of creation represents another process. And it's explaining us how we become a human being and what makes us human. And it's evolving. It's showing how first there was earth, and then there was water, and then there was plant, and then there was vegetation, and then there was animal, then there's human being. And it's trying to explain us who we are and why we are, not how we are. It's not a book of science to tell us how the world was created, but why we're created and what's our purpose that we are created now. But that's what really Bereshit is about. So it's about the how. It's about the why, but not the how. So what does the word Bereshit tell us? Bereshit tells us that Bereshit Bar Elokim, Bereshit, for the purpose of Bereshit, for revealing the one. Bereshit also comes from the word Rosh, which is one, or the head, for revealing the head, which on a Kabbalistic level, the word head refers to Chachma. So Bereshit Bar Elokim, in beginning, for the purpose of revealing the beginning, revealing wisdom, that's why the world was created. Bar Elokim, and now it's going to explain how the wisdom is being revealed in creation. And that's the process of the days of creation, explaining how this wisdom is revealed and how we're supposed to receive that wisdom. So what is our purpose then? Our purpose really is to find the wisdom within creation. Now the Zohar writes that Bereshit Bar Elokim, the words Bereshit Bar Elokim, which means in the beginning God created, means in the beginning it's reading it as in, but saying that Bereshit is the Ein Sof, which is the infinite, which is also Chachma and Timsa, that's also connected with wisdom, with Chachma. Bereshit Bara Elokim, in the beginning, the Ein Sof created Elokim, which means Elokim is God, but Elokim is God is the way it's plural, right? Elokim is in the plural language. Elokim has the same numeric value as nature. And in the entire first chapter of Bereshit, the name Elokim only appears. The name Hashem does not appear, and it appears 32 times. So Elokim is connected with Hashem, with God, as it is expressed through nature. And then in the chapter 2, or when it later talks about the revelation of the Torah, it says, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, I am Hashem Elokecha. So Hashem is the infinite, and Elokim Elokecha is the finite, which is connected to the natural, that's why when it talks about the creation of man in chapter number 1, where mankind does not yet receive, he blew into his nostrils a breath of light, he does not yet receive a neshama, a soul, which is from a higher dimension, man is still connected with the world of Elokim. And that's why Elokim created man in the first story. As you know, there's two stories in the creation of Adam and Chava and Adam and Eve. There's two narratives. In the first narrative, Adam and Eve are created simultaneously, and they don't receive a soul. In the second narrative, Adam is created first, and then Chava is created afterwards, and they receive a soul. But there it's B'yom bara Hashem Elokim. There Hashem Elokim is creating, which means that there's a new dimension given into creation. Hashem is the infinite, Elokim is connected with the finite. Hashem is the spiritual, the manifestation of spirituality, and Elokim is a manifestation of Hashem within the physical. So Bereshit Bar Elokim means Bereshit, the Ein Sof Chachma, bara Elokim, created Elokim. And Chachma is the wisdom, the infinite created Elokim, and then Elokim created S, which is also an allusion to S, which is the Aleph, the Taf, Es HaShemayim, so the alphabet, which is, we spoke many times, which is the original vibration of creation. And then a Shemayim V'Aretz, then there's sound, there's Shemayim, and there's Aretz, there's earth. there is heaven and earth. So Bereshit bara Elokim es Shemayim es Aretz is a creation of the infinite creating Elokim, which is using the alphabet, which is the sounds and the vibrations, which eventually gives rise to the physical and spiritual matter of Shemayim and Aretz. That's why also, incidentally, the first letters of Bereshit bara Elokim es Shemayim Aretz, the 7 letters of those 7 words, in total is the numeric value of 22, which is the 22 alphabet again. So the idea of Bereshit bara Elokim is that at the beginning, the Ein Sof creates bara Elokim. So what does this mean to us? What is it trying to tell us? It's not trying to tell us how, but it's trying to tell us why. So here that we're in the receiver of Bereshit bara Elokim. And on a deeper level, Bereshit means in the Reshis bara Elokim, right? In the Ein Sof there was a revealing, and bara also means an externalization of Elokim, which means the finite became revealed within the infinite. For what purpose? Bereshit for the purpose of Reshis, for the purpose of revealing the wisdom. And the wisdom is revealed through the Torah, through Israel. But the purpose of so what is our purpose? Our purpose is, as a reflection of this, to reveal wisdom. That's the intention. So Bereshit bara Elokim, it's created. Why is it created? Not how is it created, why is it created? It's created through wisdom, and wisdom creates. Why, and what's the purpose? The purpose is so we should reveal the wisdom. And that's the intention. So what does that mean practically? What it practically means is that in every single experience that we have to try to find the wisdom, and the light, or the Ein Sof, whatever you want to call it, but we have to find that wisdom within it. There's something interesting that we'll just veer off for a moment, that we spoke also on Shabbos a little bit, which is the Zohar on the portion of Noach. Thank you. The Zohar portion of Noach, which is the portion that we read last week. In the beginning of the portion of Noach, it says, Elo Tolas Noach ish tzadik tamid hoy v'dereisov. These are the chronicles, these are the offsprings of Noach. Noach was a righteous man in his generation. So we find the word Elo Tolas Noach, that the word Noach appears with Noach. Noach is Noah. So Elo Tolas Noach. You have two names together, right? His name double. So the Zohar says that we find this with all the people, all the great, not all, but many of the great tzaddikim that we find in the Torah. We find the same thing that we have Avram, Yaakov, Moshe, that they appear in together, like Elo Tolas Noach, then Noach, or Moshe, in the Torah, in the Torah. So we find Avram, and Yaakov, and Moshe. We don't find this with regards to Yitzchak. Yitzchak, we don't have anywhere in the Torah that says Yitzchak and then Yitzchak. So the Zohar wants to understand why. And basically what the Zohar says is like this, that every single person, most people are one-dimensional. One-dimensional means that they function on a very physical plane. Something happens to them, they interpret the event as it happens. Someone says hello to them, they interpret it as it's presented to them on a very immediate, existential, physical level. Then it says that there are tzaddikim. So what's a tzaddik? Tzaddik is someone that's lived on a higher plane. Someone that's matzik adin, someone that sees something that's deeper. A person that's a tzaddik is someone that has experience on multiple levels, or we'll give it just a very broad definition, on 2 levels, which means that they have a rucha, they have their spirit that functions on the physical level, so they're experiencing physicality as anyone else. And then there's another level of their existence which they're experiencing everything on a spiritual realm. So something happens to them, or let's assume that you're a tzaddik, something happens to you, and you experience this event. So you see it as it is, which is one thing. Okay, this is what happened. This is someone's free choice. Because of that, you're the recipient of this person's actions. This is on one level. And then on another level, you say, okay, so this is true on a physical level, but why do I have to experience it? What's the purpose? Why am I seeing it? Why am I experiencing it? Why am I feeling it? And if you're experiencing it, there has to be a purpose. So then you're living on another level as well. You're following? So if most people live, well, not most people, let's say many people live on a very one-dimensional level, which is on a physical level. Someone that has a little bit of more spiritually evolved self can function on two levels. And that's what the Torah suggests when it says Avram, Moshe, Yaakov, Yaakov. There's one level that's ruchai, that's connected with this physical world, and they're experiencing things that everyone else experiences. And there's another level that you're trying to experience something more. Which again, what is the more? Which is connected to what we were talking before. That the idea of Bereshit Bar Elokim, to understand that why was the world created, not how the world was created, or why was the world created? To reveal wisdom, to reveal the Torah, to reveal Israel. So why was the world created? To find that kernel of wisdom. Something happens to you, you experience something, you see something. You don't say, okay, this is just a random occurrence, it just happened. You don't make your nick and things happen. But you ask yourself, okay, but I received this information, I experienced this information, I was present in this situation. Why me? What do I have to learn? And what is the experience teaching me? The moment we experience a little bit more, so that's already experiencing the Reishis, the Chachma, the wisdom, Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, the name of Hashem. Because Elokim is connected with concealment. That's what Elokim is. It's connected with nature. Therefore, Elokim is connected with concealment. If you take the letters Elokim, which is Aleph, Lamed, Hey, Yud, Mem, you'll see that the word Elokim is comprised of two words, which is Ilem, Yud-Kei. Ilem, Yud-Kei means the silencing of the Yud and the Hey. So what is Elokim? Elokim is actually a concealment, a silencing of the name of Hashem, the Yud-Kei. Which means when you experience a physical thing and you bump into the wall, and it's painful, and you only experience this as painful because you hurt yourself, because you bumped into the wall, you're experiencing Elokim, which is the Elam of the Yud-Kei. The Reishis, the wisdom, the Chachma, the infinite, is concealed in the finite, the material, and the physical, and what you're experiencing is the wall and your head, and therefore it hurts. Now, if you have, and therefore it's the silencing of the Yud-Kei. What is the unsilencing, or the revealing within the Aleph Lamed Mem? To reveal is to reveal the Yud and the Hed, or the Chachma, the wisdom. So what the idea is to reveal wisdom in the experience. When you reveal wisdom in the experience, then you're functioning on these multiple levels. So you're like Noach, Avram, Moshe, which is on these multiple levels. You're experiencing everything on a physical level, and you're also interpreting it on a spiritual level. So what's the lesson? And this actually is the way we break out of any type of concealment, any type of klipa or concealment or being stuck that we experience in our life. That we feel that there's a lot of din or judgment, and we feel stuck. It could be mental, spiritually, physical, whatever the stuckness is. The way to break open this klipa is to find some sliver of light, of wisdom. And when you hold on to that little piece of wisdom, that little piece of light, that slowly breaks open the klipa. It's not about finding great, let's say a person lost a job or experienced death. Even something of tremendous magnitude. I'll be fine, I'll get through this. But I'm not going to be able to talk. So, all right, for later. If a person experiences something that's really hard, so and they feel concealed, and that's, let's say, for example, a person experienced death. So in the language of the Talmud, it's hanegdom. A person that experienced death is supposed to be silent. Why they're supposed to be silent? Because there's really nothing to talk. There's nothing to say. There's nothing to express himself. But in that place of concealment, which is din, how do we do hamtakas din? How do we do sweetening of din? How do we sweeten judgment? We sweeten judgment is not saying, okay, so someone experienced something terrible and says, okay, now I figured everything out, it makes 100% sense, and the reason why I lost my job and my spouse and my life, whatever, all these things is completely figured out. We're not saying that. We're saying that in order to find the why, you don't have to find the answer to the big question. You have to find answers to the small little things. Try to find a little bit of wisdom. Okay, what did it teach me? How did it make me into a better person? What is it teaching me about myself? What can I learn about myself? What can I learn about the people around me? try to find one small little amount of light, one small little amount of wisdom in the experience that you have. And slowly, if you find a little bit light, the nature of light is that it pushes away a lot of darkness. But you're not trying to find the big question. And that's why a lot of people get stuck. They get stuck in a way that they can unstuck themselves because they're trying to find the big answer to the big question. They're trying to find the one big answer to the big question, and they're in a bad situation. So they're saying, okay, let me figure out what is that big answer to that question. And it's hard to find the big answer in one shot. We're not saying
that tzaddik sees that it is without going through that mental exercise.
No,
they just see that.
A perfect tzaddik would be someone that sees it constantly, always. But that's a tzaddik comer. Correct. But even a person that's not on a full level of tzaddik is someone that understands that there are two levels. Is someone that is able to break free from the one level into the second level, to able to see some wisdom. That's the way slowly things start unveiling themselves and start revealing themselves, and going from a place of Elohim to Hashem. And that's the process. So the process is to hold on to small things, to find a little bit of things, and that's the purpose. That's the why of creation. To find the ratios, to find the chachma, to find the Ein Sof, to find the Yud Kei Vav Kei, to find infinity, to find that aspect within the finite experience that we have, and slowly to break open the Elohim, to reveal that Hashem hu Elohim, that Hashem is Elohim, and there is no concealment, right? And that's the ultimate expression of Hashem.
Is that what Joseph did then? Because there is no repetition of his name, he was revealing.
Okay, so what the Zohar says is that the person that we don't find, Yosef is different, but the person we don't find in terms of, because we find Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and Moshe, so the one obvious person that we don't find is with Yitzchak, right? So we don't find with Yitzchak. So the Zohar says something very interesting. The Zohar says that the reason why we don't find with Yitzchak is because Yitzchak, Isaac, went up to the Akedah, right? And the Akedah story is that his father heard a voice, and the father's voice told him that he has to offer his son Yitzchak as an offering. And Yitzchak, at some point in time, when he sees the knife, he understands that this is the end of his life. So when Yitzchak goes up to the Akedah, his intention is to experience death. He understood that he's going to die, whether it's a spiritual death or ecstasy, but he understood that his life on this planet is over. So therefore he gave himself over with his kavanah, his intention, as if he's going to die. Because he gave over his intention if he's going to die, so the Zohar says, it's as if he died. And once he experienced death, then there is no longer two dimensions, there's only one dimension. He only sees the bigger picture. He's no longer seeing the trivial and the smaller picture. I want to say there's a very interesting teaching by the Baal Shem Tov, which we also learned on Shabbos, but it's very important. The Baal Shem Tov speaks about davening, prayer, and says that when a person goes into pray, into davening, their kavanah should be as if they're going to die in the experience. As if they're going to die in the experience of prayer, and it's a miracle that they survive. And I'll explain what this means in a second. He says that if you do this, if you go this with this kavanah, he says then when you leave prayer, first of all, you be grateful that you're alive. It says then all the small things of the ego will stop bothering you. So there's an older teaching that comes from the Shalah HaKadosh that writes that when a person says Shema, before a person says Shema, and this was written in medieval Europe, so it was much more applicable then, but it's still something that resonates, which is like this. He says when you say Shema, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Now we know that generally Shema was said also by Jews that were taken to the gas chambers, or Jews that were about to be killed. So they would say Shema, declaration of faith, because the Talmud says, B'chol levavcha, b'chol nafshecha, b'chol memecha, b'chol nafshecha, afilu neitas nafshecha. Even if to the extent that your soul is departing you, you should say Shema. So Shema says this is the reason why we close our eyes when we say Shema. Why do we close our eyes when we say Shema? Because the closing of the eyes is the dying of the physical. You're saying there's no longer a physical, and your kavanah is that you're mukhan and mezumah, that you're ready to die for this truth. Now, if a person is ready to die for a certain truth, let's take it on a simple level and we'll understand it on a more psychological, spiritual level. A person that goes through an experience that they almost died, where they actually thought that their life is over. I'm not saying anyone had this experience, but if a person does have this experience, and they're lying there, and let's say your life is over. I don't know, you're God forbid, you're on an airplane and it's going down. I guarantee you that if somehow you survive, but you knew that you thought you're gonna die, and you 100% were comfortable with the fact that your life is no longer going to continue, and you somehow survive, I guarantee that all the things that bothered you before, all the petty little things, and my ego was hurt, and this person didn't say hello to me, this person didn't say goodbye to me, this person was nice to me, all these things will become completely trivial and nonsense. So this is on a physical level. Now, the truth is, on a very simple truth, we actually don't know. We everyone hopes to live to 120, everyone should have a long life. But that's one thing. But the Baal Shem Tov is saying is like this, that if you enter into davening, you enter into prayer, with the kavanah that you're actually, as if this is the end of your life, and you're ready to sacrifice. Now, it doesn't mean literally you're going to, because God willing, you'll survive the prayer and you're going to be fine. But in your kavanah, your intention, is as if your life can be over and you're okay with it. And you can completely surrender. If you go into that type of kavanah into prayer, when you're going to enter into prayer, all the small things that normally bother you will stop bothering you. Which means, again, it's like the two Noachs, or like the one Yitzchak. When Yitzchak goes up to the top of the mountain and is ready to sacrifice his life, and he thinks that it is actually the end of his life because he thinks that his father heard the voice of Hashem, and his father's a pious man, his father's going to kill him, and he's ready, he's surrendering, he's fine with it. When he comes back down the mountain, he's no longer living in a physical plane. That's why, according to the Medrash, he's living in Gan Eden, he's living in paradise, and that's why he doesn't appear at his mother's funeral. There's all different madrashim, all different ways that the sages understand this, but he experienced some form of very traumatic experience, to the extent of his inner kavanah was already, his inner intention was already, I'm going to sacrifice my life. Once he reached the point where he's going to sacrifice his life, all the things that normally most people function on a human level, that normally bother people and disturb people, stop disturbing him. So Yitzchak actually lives as if he's only on a spiritual plane. The physical things don't matter any longer. And what I want to say is that this is not something only for great tzaddik.
His gvura?
Well, the gvura is another thing. We'll talk about it. That's another conversation.
But however, he managed to get married.
That's another thing. But
so do we have like
a balance?
Okay,
that's another conversation. That has to do with his father finding a wife. But we're talking about the concept, and the idea is not to be on that one dimension. We're saying that. We're saying we're trying to use what the Baal Shem Tov would say. It says, okay, if you're ready to live that way, that you're ready to sacrifice your life. Not that you're gonna when you leave the state of prayer, you're not gonna get married and you're not gonna do this. You can just live in a mountaintop and meditate. He's not saying that. You're gonna live like a normal human being, but you're gonna always understand that there's another way of living, and that's gonna give you. That's gonna have another way to phrase this is like this. If you ever had a very powerful davening, let's say it's Ne'ilah on Yom Kippur. Or let's say it's some moment, whatever time that you really prayed and you really had real kavanah and you're really focused. And everything was very sharp in your life and very clear what you wanted to do and what you have to achieve. And it was clear to you what the important things of life are. And now you're living your mundane life and things are not so clear. But if you can have a reshima, some type of residue of that memory, that will allow you to get through the day. It will say, okay, but you know what, there was once a time in this past year that I actually experienced something more. Like I said, we're not trying to say that you're going to have this one big epiphany and everything's going to become lit and your whole life is going to become clear and you're not going to have any more questions anymore. Halavai, maybe. But what we're saying is you're going to have a little bit light, a little bit of wisdom, a little bit of understanding that's slowly going to allow you to deal with life and to deal with the experiences of life. And that's really what Bereshit bara Elokim es Shamayim es haaretz. That's the intention of the creation. That's the why of creation. The why is to reveal that wisdom. And the wisdom is revealed slowly. First you find a little bit of wisdom here, and a little bit there, and then slowly it breaks open, and from Elokim it becomes Hashem.